everybody, and welcome to AMC Mailbag, the all-mailbag show here on AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your questions. I'm Ashley Mova, and if you've got a question that you want answered on air, you can send it over anytime to amcmovietalk@gmail.com. You could get it answered on our daily show, AMC Movie Talk, or our weekend show, this show, AMC Mailbag. And sitting with me to answer those questions right here, right now, is the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, John Campea. John, how are you today?
I'm tired.
You're tired.
It's been a long week already. And guys, our apologies for last week. Obviously last weekend we didn't have mailbag shows, but we had Vegas to go to the IWTV Awards. We had Star Wars celebrations. We had a lot of fun, but there was absolutely no time to do mailbag last week. So, but we are back. And
we are
excited to be back.
Last week was a crazy week, but here we go with mailbag. Nico Rodriguez writes, "Hey AMC, I love what y'all do and watch all your shows. I was wondering if you would be able to explain change in one's feelings towards movies. When I was young, I loved the Star Wars movies and thought that universe was incredible. With all the Star Wars news coming out and this week that has been overloaded with trailers, while I enjoyed the Star Wars one, I didn't get the feelings of excitement that came with watching the Batman vs. Superman trailer. Any thoughts on this would be appreciated."
Well, I mean, here's one of the key things that I think a lot of, when it talks about being a film fan, I think a lot of people just forget our reactions to movies are actually quite automated, what our reactions are. And what I mean by that is this. Let's make I like to draw analogies between movies and food. So let's say—
I thought you were going to do a sports analogy.
No. I often draw analogies between sports and movies, yes. But this one is more applicable for food. Uh-huh. You sit down and you take, like a restaurant brings out for you a bowl of soup, right? You're not sure what's in it, whatever. And we'd like you to try this soup. You put the soup in your mouth. Here's the interesting thing. You don't decide if you like it or not. Your body just reacts to it a certain way. Okay. You know, your taste buds and your nervous system, whatever, just reacts to it a certain way. And it tells you if you like it or not. You know, when somebody gets on stage and tells a joke, unless you decide to fake it, and I hear some people fake it, but unless you decide to fake it, a comedian tells you a joke, you don't decide if you're going to laugh or not. Like I said, unless you're faking it, your body, how it strikes you mentally and all that kind of stuff, it just reacts a certain way. Film is a lot like the same way. You can sit down and watch a film and you go, okay, this has technical brilliance. You can tell that, blah, blah, blah. But if it doesn't hit you, if it doesn't engage you, if it doesn't elicit that emotional response and that reaction, that's something you choose to do. Your body, your system, your soul, if you will, tells you if you liked it or not. So when something like our changing tastes like that, look, my favorite, when I was a kid, between the age of, say, 13 and 16, my favorite sandwich in the world. Do you remember this? My favorite sandwich in the world was peanut butter, butter, and mayonnaise.
Oh my gosh.
That was everybody in the studio suddenly looking at me like I'm some kind of monster.
What is that?
It was my favorite sandwich.
You just wanted to be a gross boy. So that was your favorite sandwich.
I think I got home from school early one day. My mom wasn't home from work. I'm like, what's around? There's some bread. I like bread. There's some peanut butter and butter. Oh, and there's some mayonnaise. And I put it all together and ate it. And I was like, this is really good. Now, I didn't eat that for years and years and years. And about 3 years ago, I was telling my wife about how much I used to love peanut butter, and mayonnaise. So out of the way, I said, you know what? I am going to try a peanut butter, and mayonnaise sandwich. And I bet I'm going to love it because I remember as a kid loving it. And I put it all together. I think I put it on whole wheat bread instead of white bread because I think that's all I had at the time. And I was so excited. I took a bite and I'm like,
I don't blame you.
This is not so good, but my tastes changed, right?
Thank God.
Thank God. And I think the same can happen with us mentally as well. Our tastes in film, what hits us a certain way, what gets a certain reaction, what elicits that emotional response out of us, that can change over time. Maybe you grew up loving the Transformers cartoons and then you watch them now and you're going, oh, this is kind of crap. Or maybe you grew up hating the G.I. Joe cartoons and you watch them and think, these are actually pretty awesome. It changes. And a lot of that is just our automated responses to them, and just go with it. That's why I always say, film's subjective. There's no true right and no true wrong, unless you're talking about objective facts. Like, who won the Oscar last night? Well, you can verify that fact. But should you laugh at that joke? Well, maybe 90 out of 100 of us will, and we'll say, okay, that joke's funny, but that doesn't mean it'd be funny to everybody. And so that's how I poorly explain our changing tastes in movies. If you ever got to think about it, just remember, Peanut butter, and mayonnaise.
Delicious.
Delicious.
You made the comparison between kind of going to see a comedian and it making you laugh. When I go to a comedy show and I don't necessarily think the joke is funny, but everyone else is laughing, I think it's funnier. Do you think that with trailers, that if everyone else loves this trailer, it kind of influences your opinion on what your perception of what the trailer is? Like, you like it more because everyone else likes it.
I think not only that, I think the movie experience itself. Like, one of the reasons I've always said, and now look, I work for AMC Theaters. Of course he's going to say this. Look back all my old stuff when I was writing for the movie blog. Okay, I've been saying this for a decade, all right? One of the reasons why nothing to me will ever replace the movie-going experience. And, funny, a study was done a couple of years ago, I've quoted it before, that showed people who own big home theater systems go to more movies than people who don't. And I think the reason why is, I think those of us who own, like, I've got not a monstrous TV, but I got like a 60-inch TV and a nice speaker system, all that kind of stuff. I think what people like me really learn once we've got a pretty decent picture in our house, nothing compared to a movie screen, pretty decent sound, nothing compared to really good like Dolby Atmos sound. But we have that. What we realize is movies are meant to be seen in a shared community environment. They're meant to be seen not just in a movie theater, but in a crowded movie theater. They're meant to be shared with an audience, like watching a football game, right? You go watch an NFL football game and it's just you in the stands. It's
not fun.
Well, I mean, if you love football, you still get to watch a football game and it's great and all, but you're going to have so much more fun if you're surrounded by
everyone's cheering with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember going to see the Avengers for the first time. And Disney invited a bunch of us down. They packed out the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, and we went and watched it. And I'm telling you, everybody in that place was buzzing like it was at a live football game. We were all jumping up and down in our seats, and it made for an incredible series. Now, I watched the Avengers again later at home, and I still love the movie, but it's not the same. So can those crowd experiences influence? Absolutely. Is that a good or a bad thing? That's up to you to decide, but definitely it plays a part.
Yeah,
definitely plays a part.
Nicolai Øien writes, "Hey AMC, incredible show. My question is about AMC Phase 3. Since you have started up with Phase 3 successfully, do you think that Phase 4 would be an expansion of your media, like having a one-week show for TV shows, music, and games?"
Well, okay. So before I answer that, and I've answered types of these questions on my Facebook page a lot, let me just set up the structure here for you. The way AMC Movie News operates is that AMC Theaters decided we want to give back to film fans. And we want to have a place and create shows and everything online where film fans can talk about these movies that they love so much and all this kind of stuff. And part of the idea is that get us all more excited. Like, here's the thing too. For a while, AMC, understandably so, didn't want us to do editorials and didn't want us to talk negatively about movies. Like, I say Transformers 4 is a big bag of crap. They never wanted me to say that before, right? But what they realized, and what I was telling them for a long time, and they realize this too, is like, hey, guess what? People tune into ESPN, sports analogy again. People tune into ESPN if they're football fans. And even if they're talking negatively about a certain football team, it still gets us excited about football. And my whole presentation has always been that, hey, look, if we get on our shows and we talk positively about what's positive, we talk negatively about what's negative, overall it just increases all of our excitement, and all of us want to get more engaged in the world of film, if we're honest and stuff like that. And AMC understood that. I mean, they're one of the few companies that would. I mean, they're great that way. But here's the thing. We are a movie company. We are AMC Theaters. We are a theatrical movie-going experience company. Why would we do a show about TV shows? Why would we do a show about video games? It's not that TV shows aren't great. It's not that video games aren't great. But there are other places for TV shows and video games and things like that do it excellent, do it well. If you need recommendations, ask me on my Twitter. I'll be happy to give you some of those sites that I like to go, some of the YouTube channels that I like to watch for that stuff. But as far as us, I mean, we're having a hard enough time just keeping up with just all the movie stuff. We have got a daily movie news show. We've got 5 weekly shows. We got weekend mailbag shows. And we still have people asking for more when it comes to movies. And we have more plans for more movie stuff in the future as well. Independent film, anyway, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. But the long and short of it is, look, We are movie people. This is a movie channel and this is a movie company. So no, you are never going to see us doing shows about television shows. Not because they're not great, but it's because what we don't do. Just in the same way that you won't ever see ESPN do a show about first-time homebuyers. Shows about first-time homebuyers, hey, I watch HGTV. I'm not going to lie, I do. Shows about first-time homebuyers are great, but it's not what ESPN does. Okay. They do sports, and they're going to stay focused on sports. We do movies, theatrical movies. That's what we do. That's what we do best, and that's what we're going to continue to do. And we'll let other people do great shows about television. We'll let other people do great shows about video games. It's not our thing.
You mentioned some new shows coming along. Can you give us a little sneak peek?
Well, okay. Well, I'll tell. There are two things. Well, there are a number of things that I cannot talk about because now we're thinking 8-9 months further down the road when we get into Phase 4 stuff. But there are a couple of things that we've been talking about for a very, very, very long time. One is a daily mailbag. We've been talking about daily mailbag for a long time, and I think, now I don't know this for certain. Fact checker Jonathan, you might want to look into this.
Okay.
Maybe you can verify this. I'm pretty sure Dennis Zen would literally murder me, would literally kill me. Fact checker Jonathan, if you can look into that for me.
I looked that up on Google. It came up really quick. It was just him nodding ominously. Yeah. With bruised puppy faces behind him.
I'm pretty sure if we tried to now, because right now we are doing 2 to 3 shows a day with all of our weeklies and everything. And if we did a mailbag on top of that.
Or maybe like a Twitter question kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, that is something we are still have on the table though for when we expand more and get more resources, more crew, more team members, things like that can handle it. Yeah. Right now we can't do it, but that is still on the table. And then another show that we've been talking about for a good year now, and it's going to happen at some point. It is going to happen. We are going to go more specialized as well, and we're going to do a Bollywood show.
Yeah, you talked about that before.
Yeah, I mean, it is still on the table. I know we talked about it a long time ago, and people think maybe it fell off our radar. It didn't. It's still on our table. We just got to do it at the right time, when we're prepared to do it. And when AMC Theaters has also shored up its Bollywood films as well, because they're really committed to Bollywood films. And so that's going to come too, but there are others as well. And but we're a long ways off from that stuff. We just got started in Phase 3. We just moved into the new place. So let us get our feet under us a little bit for now.
Stay tuned, guys.
Stay tuned.
Matthew Farmer writes, hey guys, I was wondering if you thought that Deadpool's R rating would help pave the way of other R-rated superhero films if successful.
Well, I mean, let's look at another genre. Let's look at comedy, right? For a long, long time, Dennis and I have talked about this a few times. For a long time, like the idea of doing R-rated comedy was like off the table. Oh. Like studios, no, because
that's a good point.
It's not if it's funny, but we got to get the 14-year-olds in there to laugh at it and pay the money for it. But then, like certain films started to come along. Films like, I think 40-Year-Old Virgin was an R-rated film. Actually, fact checker Jonathan, if you can look that up,
sure.
I think, and just cut in and let me know once you find the answer to that. But you look at, what's the one with Jonah Hill, McLovin?
Oh my gosh, Superbad.
Superbad. Then you get films like Superbad come along, and then 21 Jump Street, and suddenly now these R-rated comedies are the big successful comedies.
They're the best.
They're the best.
They are the best.
And now it throws open the floodgates. The existence of Deadpool as an R-rated comic book movie does not open the floodgates for other R-rated comic book movies. A successful Deadpool movie also does not. A successful and warmly received by the audiences and warmly received by the critics, that kind of a movie does open, I believe, more doors for R-rated comic book films. However, the big preface I want to put on this is there are a lot of people out there who have this real twisted idea that if you make something R, that makes it better. No, it does not. We have seen a lot of R-rated crap. R does not make something better automatically. But I would also say, as I sit back and I look at the comic book universe right now, as far as films go, we're talking the most successful ones: Spider-Man, X-Men, the Avengers, all the various Marvel different stuff, the DC stuff with Superman, Batman, stuff like that. None of that needs to be rated R. I mean, none of it does. Now, then you could say, well, what about, does it open the door for us to relook at Blade? Maybe. Bring back Blade? Maybe. What about re-looking at Punisher? They've already tried 3 times with Punisher. Haven't had great results, although I really like Punisher Warzone. 4th time's a charm. 4th time's a charm. I really like Punisher Warzone. And there was a David Hasselhoff Punisher, wasn't there? No, David Hasselhoff was Nick Fury. There was an Ivan Drago. Who played Ivan Drago? Dolph Lundgren. There was a Dolph Lundgren Punisher. So there had been already 3 kicks at that can, but hey, why not? Take another shot at it. There are some heroes that would lend themselves to R-rated, but the most successful ones don't need R-rating. So it's a tricky question to ask. If Deadpool does really great, will it open the doors? I'd say it increases the possibilities for certain films to have a possibility of getting made, but it's not going to influence Batman. It's not going to influence Superman, the Avengers, Iron Man, Spider-Man, none of that stuff. It's not going to influence any of that, the big successful stuff, but it may open the door for some smaller stuff to see if an R rating can actually help them get made and help them make a little bit of money.
Yeah. When this whole Deadpool news was coming out, everyone was so adamant about Deadpool being rated R. Yeah. If I was a studio, I would walk that line so hard just to maximize my audience. Why wouldn't a studio kind of just shy away from R to get more tickets to sell? That limits your audience.
That has always been the big question with Deadpool. Like, look, I, for one, have always said, like, don't get me wrong, though, I'm very happy they went rated R with Deadpool. But that being said, for the longest time, I said I would be perfectly happy with a PG-13 Deadpool. That leaked footage that came out from Comic-Con, that was a PG-13 clip. You can do it and do it PG-13, and you can get away with a lot if you don't show blood. Like you can have Wade cutting guys in half or whatever. Yeah. Don't show a lot of blood, and you're actually going to be okay with a PG-13. I thought they could have been fine, but I'm much happier with them doing rated R. I actually really applaud Fox for stepping out and deciding, you know what, let's take a shot at this. Mm-hmm. It is the safer play to do a PG-13 film. It is the safer play. But Fox, and we don't give Fox a lot of kudos around here, but you know what, hats off to Fox. They've said, let's step out on that ledge. In this new era of comic book films, we haven't had an R-rated comic book film yet, a true potential blockbuster R-rated comic book film. Let's be the ones to go out on that ledge. Let's be the first penguin to dive into the water if there's a seal down there waiting to chew us in half or not. And let's take a shot at it. And we think by making it R, we'll get so much positive energy from the hardcore fans, and hopefully that'll carry over. And I hats off to them. It might backfire on them. It might, but at least they're willing to take a chance and a risk and to see if it'll work. And I don't think Deadpool is going to be a $700 million worldwide film like Spider-Man, but I think this could be a $400 million film. I think this could be a $350 million film. And while those numbers would be disappointing to Spider-Man fans for a Deadpool movie, come on. You tell a bunch of us 3 years ago, hey, they can make a Deadpool and they can make $350 million. We're dancing in the streets. So let's see how it works out.
Awesome. Marcus Griffin writes, hey, AMC Movie Talk. I just wanted to say I love your show and always enjoy listening while at work. I just wanted to ask about the diversity you spoke about on the show recently. I'm a 25-year-old African-American, and I find it hard to get noticed in the movie blog atmosphere because no one in my community or that I know truly cares that much about film like I do. I just wanted to know, is there a way where I can expand my audience to get more people watch my reviews and read them also? Thanks and keep up the great work.
Really appreciate the question, Marcus. And the first thing I'm going to say is I love encouraging and helping and supporting people who want to get involved in online film punditry. I think it's a great thing to do. I think the more people that are out there doing it, the richer the fan experience is online. So I would encourage you. Last year, about a year ago, I put together, I kid you not, like a 2-hour video called Getting Started in Online Film Talk. Just do a Google search, put it in quotes, Getting Started in Online Film Talk, and you should find the video that I put together. And there I tell a lot of my background. I talk about a lot of technical aspects, a lot of like industry stuff, a lot of, tips about writing and recording and shooting and all that, 2 hours worth of it. So go and find that video and hopefully you will find it helpful. But one of the things you're going to hear in that video, I'll repeat right now, is a lot of times when people ask me about getting started with a movie blog or with a YouTube channel, or with a podcast, 95% of the time they always start by asking the wrong question. And the wrong question, Marcus, actually right now is the question that you asked, is how do I get a big audience? Wrong question. Don't worry about getting a big audience. Just don't worry about it. Do it because you're passionate about it. Do it because you love film. And if you're doing it because you're passionate and you love film, then the joy of doing it becomes unto its own reward, right? Look, one out of a million people in today's day and age are going to be able to make a living out of talking about movies online. So if you're getting started thinking you're going to make a new career out of this, good luck. But it says
the guy doing it.
It says the guy doing it. But man, I got lucky when I got started. I mean, I got really lucky when I got started. But don't worry about that. If you're getting involved for that reason, you're doing it for the wrong reason. Worry about making great content. Worry about what you need to do to become a more effective communicator. Worry about what you need to do to make your videos look more professional. Worry about all those things, all these things which I cover in that video, by the way. So worry about all of that stuff. If you're good, you will start to get an audience together. You will start to get a few people checking you out. But here's the thing, 99% of the stuff out there isn't good. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it just means someone's going to come along and watch your video. But they're not. If they don't like the video they saw, they're not going to come back and watch it again. And if that's the case, it doesn't matter if you have $1 million of a marketing budget. It's all going to go away. With AMC Movie Talk, for example, some people assume because we're connected to AMC theaters that AMC theaters put big marketing budgets behind AMC Movie Talk to go out and get an audience, and we advertised and we did, YouTube pushes. No, they didn't. AMC put $0 into any marketing that. And that's a good thing because they wanted to see if what we were going to create here could stand on its own and grow on its own. It was the right move. And I applaud AMC for that. What they did was, okay, you're going to need some money for people, making the right team and making your content. And so what I did was I never focused on what do we have to do at the movie blog, which is what I did before AMC, or what do I have to do at AMC to build a big audience? I never asked that question. The question you always ask is, what do I need to do to make the best content we can, the best sounding content, the best looking content, in terms of depth, the best depth of content, the widest variety of content? What can we do to do that? Because if you nail that, then people will want to engage and come back. So my advice to you, Marcus, is stop asking the question about how do I get a bigger audience? Don't worry about that. Worry about how do you make great content? How do you become better at becoming a communicator of your own thoughts and ideas? And like I said, I hope it's of some help. Go once again, check out that video I put up online, Getting Started in Online Film Talk. So just search for that in Google and it should be the first thing that pops up for you.
Yeah. I think that he didn't mention where he lives, but do you think that it matters if you live in LA or New York? With the internet, it's so awesome because, everyone's on the internet. But yeah. Do you think it affects you where you live?
Here's a little story. I started my previous thing, the movie blog. I started that in a friend's basement in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada.
Say that 5 times fast.
Population 250,000 in the middle of nowhere. We literally saw the Aurora Borealis at night. Like that's where we were. I started it from there. I cultivated it in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, from my living room when I wasn't at work or in classes and stuff like that. And I grew that. I wasn't around LA. I wasn't around New York. I grew that to 1 million readers a month. I grew that to the point where Time Magazine did an article on me as one of the influencers in Hollywood. And I was in Hamilton. So no, whether you could be living in Atlanta, you could be living in Nebraska, you could be living in Anchorage. It doesn't matter. The internet, as you're pointing out, is the great democratizer. It doesn't matter where you live. If you've got great and interesting content, you work on how you deliver it, you work on how you formulate your thoughts, you work on your presentation. If you can do that, then you stand a chance of actually gaining a bit of an audience and having a lot of fun with it.
If you build it, they will come, ladies and gentlemen. Gavin Coop writes, firstly, good job on all the new shows. Really enjoying them. Keep up the good work. My question is this. Following what happened with RDJ earlier with a UK interviewer, what lines, if any, do you think should be drawn when interviewing actors about movies? Personally, I think the interviewer was out of line and commend RDJ on his class.
Yeah, we talked about this on AMC Movie Talk a couple of days ago, actually. For those of you who don't know, there was this incident where in the UK, this one interview at a Avengers press event, where this one interviewer got a chance to sit on Robert Downey Jr. He decided he didn't want it. He wasn't interested in the Avengers. He wanted to, first of all, start talking to Robert Downey Jr. about his drug use and his time in prison. And if that wasn't enough, Then he started talking about, hey, Robert, let's talk about the negative influence your father had on you. It's like, then he starts dragging the dude's family into it. And it's like full kudos to Robert Downey Jr. for how he handled that. He handled that. There are some people online who gave Robert Downey Jr. a hard time for getting up and walking out. I wouldn't have got up and walked out. I would have got up, dove over that table, and beat the living crap out of that dude.
Definitely.
It's like, you want to talk about my family?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, here, I mentioned this on Movie Talk, but I have a rule for myself and for everybody at AMC Movie News who goes and conducts our interviews, which you do fabulously, by the way. Ashley's one of our junket people. And that rule is simply this. If we get a chance to interview a celebrity specifically for a press junket for a specific movie, and that's the context in which we're being invited to go and talk to them, then only talk about the movie. Just talk about that movie. If we get invited to go talk to Oscar Isaacs about one of his independent films that he has right now, and the studio invites us and they're gracious enough to let us come in and sit down to talk about their movie, don't try digging around for a Star Wars scoop. You know, I find it disrespectful. There are other people who do it. I'm not judging them. I'm not saying they should or should. I'm just saying the standard we've set for ourselves here at AMC is, if you're going to invite us to come and talk about that, and that's why you're inviting us, then that's what we're going to talk about. But what this guy did, let's talk about your drug use. Let's talk about your time in prison. Let's talk about your father. That just felt, one of the things Christian Harloff said was perfect. Creepy.
Very.
Felt creepy. And once again, full kudos to Robert Downey Jr. Handled that with as much class and dignity and kindness that I think any human being could reasonably be expected to handle with. I mean, he just handled that perfectly.
Totally, completely. I watched the interview. Oh my gosh. Clearly, I don't think this guy has taken a hosting class any day in his life, because every time I take a hosting class, they say your audience comes first. And if your audience is watching you like this, oh my gosh, I can't watch it, then you're like, then you're being selfish and you're not doing this interview for your viewers. I do think that this guy's going to get fired for that interview.
Well, here's the thing. A few other people brought this up too. The one circumstance in which I'm going to feel bad for this guy.
Yeah. I remember Alicia talking about this.
Did his bosses make him ask that question? Because I know I've got a lot of friends in this business, and sometimes we would be talking over drinks at Buffalo Wild Wings or something. They'd be like, John, my boss, they insisted that I ask this guy about this, and I felt so awful doing it. And so if that's the case, no, he's not getting fired. Unless they're going to throw him under the bus, and which would really make them monsters. But if that's the case, then I actually go from feeling like I want to punch that guy in the face to feeling really bad for that guy.
But he should have felt the awkwardness in the room. If you start to go that direction and they're not feeling it, creep away. But he just kept pushing for it.
I know. Like I said, if it depends on who his boss. I don't know this guy, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what his bosses are like. But if his bosses are like people who are behind the scenes who are like, you damn well better ask him, push him on this, push him about this. And he's like, this is my job. Okay. So Robert, do you think your father had anything to do with you going to jail?
I can't even watch you doing an impression. It's giving me anxiety.
If that's the case, then all of a sudden I go from being really mad at that guy to feeling I want to give the dude a hug and just say, guy, I'm so sorry for what you just had to put yourself through. Oh well.
Adrian Harry writes, hey guys, love this show and I try not to miss an episode. Last year, Fox Studios set the worldwide box office record at $5.5 billion. At the beginning of this year, I read that number would be hard to beat. The key to numbers like this is good films. We've now seen 5 great trailers for Disney films to come. Cinderella is already in the clubhouse at $400 million. Age of Ultron and The Force Awakens are both looking like $2 billion movies. The Mouse also has Tomorrowland, 2 Pixar movies, and a little film called Ant-Man coming. Do you think they will be able to break the $6 billion mark worldwide with just 7 movies?
They are on... look, they've got their 2 big hitters, using sports analogies again. They've got Star Wars and they've got Avengers Age of Ultron. Cinderella exceeded expectations. So let's, for argument's sake, and look, it is no automatic guarantee that either Avengers or Star Wars will make it to the $2 billion mark. I mean, I would guess they will, but by far, no means is it automatic. But for the purpose of this exercise, let's say, okay, sure, they make $2 billion. So now you're at 4.4. Now you need another 1.1 billion. Ant-Man is not going to be $1 billion film. I think the folks at Marvel are going to be really happy if that's a $450 to $500 million film. And if it is, great. Well, now you're into 5 point something. Tomorrowland is a big wild card. Not really sure how much Tomorrowland's going to make. So that's a big question mark as well. Inside Out is a big question mark. I think that movie is going to be a masterpiece. But the marketing for it hasn't been great. And it looks like a very difficult movie to market. Good Dinosaur, who knows what that's going to do? Like, we have no even perception right now about what that movie's even going to be like. So while they have a great starting point, if the question on if Disney can catch that Fox number, it's going to be up to movies like Inside Out, The Good Dinosaur, Ant-Man, and Tomorrowland. Those are the movies that are going to determine if it can do it or not. And we just don't have enough information from us to see. If they're all sleeper hits like, say, Guardians of the Galaxy was, then it'll beat the mark. If they're not, then who knows? So it's a great question. I just don't have it like most of my answers. I don't have an intelligent answer for you. So
I was looking at their release dates, and I don't think most of them don't overlap, except Tomorrowland comes out, I think, in the third week of Avengers.
Yes.
Which one do you think is going to come like closer to number one that week when Tomorrowland comes out?
I think Tomorrowland will be number one, because I think if Tomorrowland was opening in Avengers' second week, no chance. Opening on its third weekend, and might be its fourth weekend that it's opening on. Sure. But let's, for argument's sake, right now say, actually, fact checker Jonathan, can you find out which weekend? Which Avengers weekend will it be that Tomorrowland opens? Will it be the third weekend that Avengers third weekend, or will it be Avengers fourth weekend?
I think it was the 22nd it came out.
If it's the fourth weekend, if it's the 22nd, it's going to be the third weekend. If it's if it's the fourth weekend, automatic Tomorrowland. If it's the third weekend, which it's sounding like it will be,
it's the 22nd, so it's the third.
It's the third weekend of it. Okay, then it's going to be close. I will guess Tomorrowland. Like, you've had Fast and Furious sitting at number one for a while, but there's been nothing really significant opening against it. Tomorrowland, while we don't know how big it's going to be, it will be a significant entry. On Avengers second weekend, no contest. It's Avengers. We'll win it second weekend. Third weekend against Tomorrowland, I'm going to mildly guess that it's going to be Tomorrowland, but I won't be surprised if it's
not going to bet on it?
No, wouldn't put money on it.
Jean Proctor writes, "Hey AMC Movie Talk, I'm a huge fan of the show, and I've had a question that's been bugging me for a while now. Months ago, it was announced that Shane Black had signed on to direct a Predator sequel. Since that announcement, there has been no news on that film, and that makes me wonder, is the film still happening?"
As far as I know, the film is happening, but remember, Shane Black has been a little bit busy. He's actually in post-production right now on his new film, The Nice Guys. And that film stars, it's a great-looking film, man. It stars Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe, two of the best in the business right now. And it's a 1970s murder mystery, which it has a little bit of LA Confidential kind of feel to it to me. And it's about the murder of a 1970s porn star and stuff I mean, there's just
lots of porn stars on the show this week.
Yeah, we had lots of porn talk on AMC Porn. You want to know about one of our Phase 4 films? No, Phase 4 shows? No, great. I can guarantee you that is not the case. But I mean, everything being done by Shane Black, everything about this just sounds cool. He has been completely wrapped up and busy with that. I'm going out on a limb and guessing that is the primary reason you haven't heard anything about his Predators remake. It's still on the books. I have not heard anything from anybody about it coming off the books. It's still registered. I believe as soon as he's done with The Nice Guys, then you're going to see him steamrolling on Predators, and then they'll go from there. But yeah, let him at least get this one movie he's working on finished and behind him.
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was going to be a reboot. How do you make a sequel 25 years later?
I'm not sure. And to be honest, I've heard people say it's going to be a reboot. I've heard people say it might be a sequel. I don't know which is true. I'm sure the facts are out there somewhere. I just don't know what they are. But I trust this guy. I trust Shane Black. And if it's a sequel, as ridiculous as that sounds to me, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and give it a shot. I would be much more happy to hear it's rebooting it and taking another stab at it from a new direction. But either way, if Shane Black's doing it, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm excited about it.
All right. Tyrone Power writes, "Hi guys, now that Steven Spielberg has broke bread with Disney on the BFG, and given his close ties with Kathleen Kennedy, do you think there's a chance they might be lining him up to direct SW Episode 9, or alternatively SW Anthology Episode 3, or even Episode 2 if Josh Trank has left the building?"
What you are just talking about now is the dream. The dream of all Star Wars fans going back to like Return of the Jedi, the dream that, these two great friends of Steven Spielberg and George Lucas would lead Steven Spielberg to direct a Star Wars film. Not a lot of people know this. There's actually a few sequences in Revenge of the Sith that Steven Spielberg actually directed. They're uncredited and behind the scenes, but he actually directed a couple of them. George brought in Steven Spielberg to do it. It has always been the dream of Star Wars fans that Steven Spielberg would actually come in and direct a Star Wars film. And until Tyrone asked this question, I hadn't even considered it. We all heard the news last week. Steven Spielberg is now directing, for the first time ever, he's directing a Disney film. First time ever with the BFG. Never dawned on me. It's like, wait a minute. Star Wars is in the Mouse House now. Steven Spielberg's now working with the Mouse House. Oh my God. Is it finally going to happen? Okay, look. You saw how happy I was about the Batman vs. Superman trailer. You saw how happy I was about the Star Wars trailer. You saw how happy I was with the news and announcement of Star Wars Anthology Rogue One and all that kind of stuff. That might all go right out the pooper if I find out. If you won't want to be within 20 feet of me. I absolutely guarantee you. If the news ever hits me that Steven Spielberg is actually coming on to direct a Star Wars film, I will probably both crap and piss myself all in one motion.
Hopefully it's on the show.
Cry and weep, throw up a little bit, cry and weep some more. I'm getting all happy just thinking about the idea of Star Wars being directed by Steven freaking Spielberg. Are you kidding me? Yeah, you won't want to be anywhere near me if that happens. So do I think that's what's happening? No, but does the possibility exist? Could the stars align? Could 1 and 1 actually equal 3? Maybe. I should have brought this up on Star Wars Jedi Council earlier this week. But who knows? If it does, man, yeah.
Yeah. So that would be your ultimate pick. Your ultimate
Oh my
pick.
God, yes.
Yeah.
No, there's nobody. Not Christopher Nolan, not Peter Jackson, not Martin Scorsese, not anybody that I would want directing a Star Wars movie more than Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg, who was there and friends and confidants with George Lucas when George Lucas was in his glory days of developing Star Wars films. Steven Spielberg, who might arguably be the best on-screen storyteller of all time anyway. Steven Spielberg, who has done some of the greatest sci-fi epics in the history of film. This Steven Spielberg directing a freaking Star Wars movie? Are you freaking kidding me? Okay, I'm going to calm myself down a little bit. I never use this word because it's a stupid word, but I'm going to use it anyway.
Go on.
Epic.
Epic. All right, guys. Well, before John pees, poos, throws up, and all that good stuff, we're going to leave you guys on that note. Thanks again so much for joining us. Just a reminder, lots of great movies being shown in AMC theaters. So go ahead and head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theaters, showtimes, and ticket information. And if you want a podcast version of this episode, check out the description box below for the link and make sure to click that subscribe button and the thumbs up button. Thanks to the guys in the room, Dennis and Jonathan, and thanks to John. John, where can people find you online?
You can find me secretly hoping and praying for Steven Spielberg directed Star Wars film. And you can follow me on Twitter and follow me on Facebook just at John Campia.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ashley Mova. And thanks again so much for joining us, guys, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.